Hello, everyone. It's time for another episode of Explain Yourself, and we have a great guest tonight to tell us about another great indie comic. So I'm excited to get into this one. We're going to have Madeline Holly Rosing come and join us to talk about Boston Metaphysical Society Mystery at Pikes Peak, number 1 through 4. Madeline, thanks for coming back.
Thank you for having me on the show, Ben. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's great to have you. So we have talked about Boston Metaphysical Society before, one of the previous chapters. This is a new adventure, Mystery at Pikes Peak, and I believe this is the end of this particular entry into the story. Is that correct?
That's correct. And if anyone is new to Boston Metaphysical, a brief rundown. It's about an ex-Pinkerton detective, a spirit photographer, and a genius scientist who battle supernatural forces in late 1800s Boston. We started with a 6-issue miniseries with art by Emily Hugh, which is now all in volume 1. And then we did 4 standalone sequels with art by Gwen Tavares, and that's all in volume 2 now. And so our third storyline here, or continuing storyline, is Mystery at Pikes Peak, where at the last standalone sequel, the Book of Demons, our intrepid team had to flee, get the hell out of Dodge, so to speak, and flee Boston. And the only safe haven they had was Tesla's experimental station in Colorado Springs, because Tesla at this point basically owed them, even though he didn't like that idea. So they arrive and meet. I introduce a new character. Her name is Mai Hui Chow from the Great House Chow of California. And she's working with Tesla on wireless technology. And the reason I introduced her is her house and the Great House Astor are basically funding this project. So her family gets the right to be able to bring someone on board. And she's a scientist in her own right. But everyone has a secret, and we're wondering if someone's trying to kill Tesla, and Caitlin's psychic abilities begin to change. So all of this affects everybody. But it's been a lot of fun writing it. We do have 2 artists on board. Elizabeth Nkedza did issues 1 and 2, and Daniela Rivera did issues 3 and 4. Katie Brown did the coloring for the entire issue. And of course, Troy Pateri did the lettering. 3 and 4 was a little late coming. There was some problems, and which obviously have been resolved. But I didn't want to run this Kickstarter till I had issues 3 and 4, the art done and in hand, which they are. Pre-press is done. Everything's ready to go to the printers. And so, yeah, I'm really happy with the way everything turned out. And we also have some great variant covers. I don't know if you want to scroll down to that at some point. Yeah, with Yishan Lee. And these are our covers by Angela. These are our main covers by Angela Wu, who just did a brilliant job. So these are.
I love these.
Those are our standard covers. Yeah. And then you can probably, if you want, jump down to the variant covers. I have one by Yishan Lee. That's for issue 3. And then another one by Gwen Tavares. I was able to lure Gwen back for a little while. The reason she and I stopped working together is at that time she had 2 kids under the age of 3, which should tell you all you need to know.
Oh, yeah, that's a lot. That's gonna eat up some time.
Yeah. And
absolutely.
So, but yeah, I was able to have her come and do this variant cover, which are available in regular and also in metal. So I'm sure
very cool. I think that water effect, I think, is going to look really cool. As is some of the stuff you have going on here in metal.
You can see in Gwen's variant cover, you can see there are ghosts in the water.
Oh, Cool. Okay. Yeah, I can kind of see that now. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, it's fun to see. I mean, the bill covers are awesome. I've seen a lot of people doing them, but to actually take that kind of do another cool thing is a really good idea. I'd like to highlight kind of the ghosts and all that stuff there. Very cool. So I think I heard I was breaking up a little bit there, but you were saying that the Astors kind of entered the picture here and sort of are the funding, obviously making their presence felt a little bit. I just finished an audiobook about them actually that was really interesting.
Oh, okay.
Mostly they're in New York City and all that stuff. Obviously, you're dealing with this era. You have these new rich people who are really changing the face of the country and doing all sorts of stuff. One of the things I love about this series is, kind of how you sort of weave in and out of real history and you to springboard ideas and cool things. And so it sounds like you really can continue to go in that direction and take stuff from the real world to find, the characters where they are and use that to just give them more dynamics to play off there. Is that research something that you kind of come up with the ideas for the story first and find a historical figure that could kind of serve a certain role, or do you come across an interesting story about somebody in history and think, wow, this would be a really cool person to weave in when I have the opportunity?
Mai Hui Chao is a fictional character. The only ones that are historical figures are Tesla, of course, and then in the earlier issues, you met Bell, Edison, and Houdini, who I don't really plan on having them come back, except in the audio drama. Edison is in the audio drama, which that was a lot of fun. And also Granville Woods, who is part of the Boston Metaphysical team, is a historical figure as well. But everyone else is fictional. No, I don't really get inspiration from historical figures' lives because I've been working in this world for over 12 years now. And so it's, everything that comes from it is organic. I'll use kind of historical places and certain situations like the Astors. I have a great house Astor. The Astors were very, formidable, industrial, robber baron family in the, early 1900s. So I do use real names, and then others I make up because I can do that. I'm the writer. I can do that.
That's the fun part.
But for those who are new or who aren't aware, the split from American history happened in my universe in the War of 1812, which basically was a draw between us and the British. And, depending on whose side you talk to is, the story of how it started and who blames whom. But in my version, the American side decided, hey, we can never lose this war. We can never be at a standstill. This can't happen again. And they believe that the only way they could accomplish that is if only the rich families, the industrial families, had control of the nation. So they gradually eroded any kind of civil rights, and you couldn't just be landed. You couldn't just own land and be able to vote. You needed to be a member of one of these great houses, one of the industrial families, which are broken up all over what I call the great states of America. And eventually, in this universe, the government is a parliamentary oligarchy. And what that means is, yes, there's still a Congress, but that Congress is chosen from within these families. And then the president is elected from Congress, from one of these families. So I even did have, Abraham Lincoln was president, but he was elected through his house.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's, it's like I said, it's a very deep world. I deal a lot with politics and particularly family politics. That's just a fun thing. I like to, that's a playground I like to go be at. And so, but also this supernatural and having psychics and ghosts and whatever are an integral part of these people's lives, whether they like it or not. There is some people who deny it, others who have to deal with it. And the Boston Metaphysical team are the ones who deal with it. They're sort of like almost a Victorian Ghostbusters in some respects, but without kind of the over the top humor.
Oh, kind of like a parallel, source of, I guess, influence or agency, almost like that. I think one of the things I really love about alt history is just taking stuff we're familiar with for history, and you get to see, for instance, Abraham Lincoln is around, but it doesn't go down exactly the way we're used to. I think it's just one of the really fun things to explore in an alt history, environment. In addition to your characters and their central conflicts and all that stuff too. Are there any like books or series? I read a few alt history things I really loved when I was younger. Are there any ones that really inspired you that you look to and how you'd handle those elements?
Well, the core of Boston Metaphysical, that research was done when I was writing a script at UCLA film school, because I have an MFA in screenwriting, and there was a program called the Sloan Fellowship, and the Sloan Fellowship focuses on science and scientists and depicting the characters accurately. And I wrote a script called Stargazer, which was about Nina Fleming, who came to this country. She was a Scottish immigrant, came to this country pregnant, poor, and abandoned by her husband, was hired by the director of the Harvard Observatory to help basically to be what they eventually called female computers. They would look at glass plates and determine, whether it was a star or not. And she eventually led that team. But I took a very brief part of, her history and told her story in the screenplay, which won the Sloan Fellowship, which I'm happy to say.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. But all of that research into Boston in the 1800s came from that. Because I did a deep dive into Boston's history for that script. And literally, I was getting microfiche from of American newspapers from France because they weren't here in the U.S., but they had. So there was all these old newspaper articles about the female computers and how they worked in astronomy. Mina herself developed a new stellar classification system, as well as discovered over 10,000 stars. And that work was a legitimate approved work for what you would call middle-class women of the time who didn't have either husbands or needed money. It was an acceptable form of work that wasn't looked down on for women of that time period. And so she ended up basically supervising a number of women who had graduated from Vassar. And, you graduate from Vassar, you can't go really work as a maid. No one will have you if you need a job, but you could go work at the Harvard Observatory, and it was an acceptable line of work. So you could feed yourself and pay the rent. So, but that's off another tangent. And I think I may have lost you. That's possible. Yep, I think Ben is gone. we'll see if he comes back. But in the meantime, for those of you who are watching, please go ahead and excuse the back here. I moved a few weeks ago, and we're still going through boxes. But yeah, take a look at the Kickstarter. We have a lot of great fun things for you, and also digital stuff, so you can get all 4 issues in digital form for $20. There's some great add-ons like the download of the Ghost Ship, and also you can get it as oh, here we got some art. Are you back, Ben?
Back. I am
Okay.
back. Sorry about that. My internet's a little spotty, and we're having some really crazy wind here in the Hudson Valley, which may not be helping.
Yeah. Yeah, we had that earlier, and it knocked over one of our umbrellas, which turned into a sail, which fortunately I was able to get down before it went into a window.
Oh, gosh. Wow.
But yeah,
trash cans flying down the street.
Yeah, that happens. What you're looking at there is some of the lovely art from Elizabeth McKedza that's in issues 1 and 2. And if you scroll down a little bit more, you can see this is Daniela Rivera, her art. And both did a fantastic job. I was very happy to get Daniela on board. She'd actually been on my short list of artists for a couple of years. And I saw her Mad Cave audition art, and she'd really improved. I mean, she'd really risen the bar. And so I said, hey, do you want to come on board? And fortunately, she said yes. And like I said before, Katie Brown did the colors.
That's great. I mean, it's yeah, the colors are really great. I think that's one of the things that really impressed me in previous issues was so often indie comics, you see coloring, art that's pretty nice, coloring its lettering sometimes as well that's not quite up to par. But this series has always really taken those details very seriously, and it shows in the final product. It's also really great to see an artist, and that's one of the nice things about being online and sharing your work and, developing relationships with the comics community is you get to see people develop. Somebody that was like just about there, a year goes by, they're ready to go. And it's really great to see.
I mean, that was the case with Danny, because I think I looked at some of her stuff a few years ago. And I went like, there's something there, but she's not quite where I need her to be yet. And then I saw her, right before I hired her for this, I went like, oh yeah, she's definitely good to go. And it was such a pleasure working with her. I also got to meet her at San Diego Comic-Con. She lives in Mexico. And at the time I lived in Southern California, and it was great to be able to meet up with her. And she's a lovely, very smart young lady, and glad to have her on the team.
Yeah, no, the art looks fantastic. And it's one of the things as an artist, you can be a great artist. I've known a lot of people who are, and I'm not saying necessarily that I've figured it all out, but I've known people who are fantastic draftsmen, great eye for composition, great eye for colors, anything you can name. You get to comics, it is just a whole different ball game. It's almost in a lot of ways, you've got to learn how to be a storyteller, which is a whole can of worms. I think even just in the pure visual side of things, compositions that look great in a single illustration or a piece of concept art or a frame from a movie do not really work in comics, don't look that cool, they're not impactful, they don't flow. It's such a specialized skill, and it takes time even for an artist who's completely developed to learn how to do. And a lot of times that's, thinking of a page as opposed to a panel, the entire image that the viewer will take in. And also I think there's just a lot you need to learn to not draw. So it's really, that's one of the great things about indie comics is you get to see people like she obviously was, where they're just sort of working out some of the kinks that will bring them to that next level. But yeah, this is really great looking stuff. And I think I mentioned this last time, but there's obviously, I think, the right amount of research done on the visuals as well, as far as what's real and then what is kind of brought in from the fantasy world there. Did you work with her a lot on balances?
I'm sorry, I work with her a lot on what?
I think I was lost for a second there.
Yeah. Work with her a lot on what?
Can you hear me?
Now I can. Yes. Now I can.
Yeah.
It's like in and out, in and out.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. Now I can't.
I think I'm cutting out a little bit again.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we can address what you were going to say. Okay. The all the artists I've worked with, I send them a ton of research images. And when I brought Danny on board for issues 3 and 4, they actually go up Pikes Peak, and there's a very specific kind of train at the time called a cog train that would able to go up that elevation. It was very steep, very high, and a normal train would not be able to ascend Pikes Peak. And so I remember I gave her the photo of it, and I said, okay, you have to make this exactly like it is, because there's going to be somebody out there who says, like, that kind of train won't work if it's just a regular train. So I just said, okay, I know this might be a pain in the ass, but we have to get this train right. And here's several pictures of it. And she did. She got it right. And when people see issues, 3 and 4, they'll see. But
no, I think there's huge value in that. You're right. And as an artist, I've drawn the smallest details that you think nobody would care about, and I will hear about it. No, that's not how an arm guard for a archer works, or something like that. I think in addition, when it's something like this, to see that and think is that weird? You look up if it's real, and it is, and you kind of end up going down a Wikipedia rabbit hole about that thing. And it's usually just another source of value, I think, as a reader, to learn something interesting and new that you've kind of woven into your story.
Yeah, and it's fun. I know Gwen Tavares, who did the standalone sequels. When we first started working together, like I said, I send my artists a ton of stuff, and I say, like, hey, if you need anything from me, let me know. I'll go look it up for you. But she really enjoyed doing research herself, and would go and get all the minute details on men's socks in the late 1800s, which had buttons. So there's like this one scene of a guy's foot, and you can see the buttons on his socks. So it also is really nice when you have an artist who, well, all the artists I've worked with care to have, everything right, or as best as you can make it right in a fictional fantasy world here. So we do.
It's important, I think, to have a team that is, it's hard to draw something if you're not really invested day after day, and it does take a lot of time to do this. So I think it's important to find a team that is as passionate about those details as you are.
Yeah, and like I said, working with Danny was great. I had written the series a number of years ago, and there was a delay with the original artist, and then I had to move on. And so, but the thing is, during that time period, my writing had changed. And so to hand over the script to Danny, of course, I went through it again and tweaked, but I couldn't change a lot because 2 issues had already been done. And, you don't want to overthink something. And anyway, I'm a better writer than I was when I originally wrote that. So it was nice working with her, because I made more changes, or she suggested changes, which I went like, yeah, do that. That's great. Than normally would happen, because, I had changed as a writer. So it was interesting. I think it was like I said, it was great working with her. I love Katie. I've learned a lot from Katie as well. And that's one of the best parts of working collaboratively in comics is we all learn from each other.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one of the things that makes it, I mean, I do stuff on my own for the most part, but I'm always kind of happy when I get to work with a team on a project, because it is just fun to collaborate with people. And I think that also people, I mean, some teams cannot get along really well and ideas can not really mesh. But when you do have a good team and they're on the same page, it's completely additive. And I think it makes it a really a good experience and a little less solitary than just sitting and drawing and writing in a room by yourself, which is what I think most of us do.
Yeah. No, that's quite true. And I'll refer to something, story wise to her, and she'll go like, "Oh, I don't understand that term. What do you mean?" And like, "Oh, okay."
Mm-hmm.
So then I'll explain, "Okay, this is why I need you to change this and this because it's a repeat beat." And she's like, "Okay, what is that?" And then we talk about it, and then we change it up, and all is good.
Oh,
So
yeah. I drew layouts for I think it was sort of an educational comic in Britain that was sort of time traveling and history based, but also involved soccer, or football, obviously, as they call it, in a big way. And the script is completely just peppered with words that were, I'm sharing all of them, that I was on Google literally 3 times a page. What is a pitch? What is this? What is that? I had no idea. So that's even, two English speaking people with a similar background. So yeah, that can really add up in terms of needing to do a little bit of research just to get on the same page. But just to wrap up, is there? So we. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, it's okay. I was just going to talk about dialect and writing dialect, and that Caitlin comes, Irish background. She was born here but raised in an Irish immigrant family. But you want her speech and diction and syntax to be more towards an Irish American of that time period, but you can't overdo it or people aren't going to understand what you're saying. It's the same thing when I was working on the Lady Mechanica story. One of the main characters has a Cockney accent. So I wasn't that familiar, so I did the deep dive into Cockney and wrote Cockney. But then Marcia Chen, the editor, said like, yeah, we know this is right, but the audience, they're not going to be able to understand it. So I saw how she edited it. So it had the flavor of Cockney, but it was still, to the modern eye, you could understand what he was saying, but still giving the flavor. And so once I saw how she had edited it, like, oh, okay, now I know what to do for this particular character. And, you have to kind of dial back that accent for readability.
I was going to say, it must be really tough to decide kind of how far to go with that. You want all the character and the flavor of that, but then like you said, you have to dial it back in places for legibility, like just clarity for the readers who aren't as familiar. And I think also, I remember watching interviews with the writers from Boardwalk Empire, which was set in Atlantic City in the 20s.
I love that show.
And they were, I love the history of it, and they weave in characters in the same kind of way that I really enjoy. From other stuff like Young Indiana Jones and kind of all the semi-history stuff I'm a big fan of. But they were like, we wanted all the period dialogue, but we couldn't go for like the really go-tos. Like we didn't want anybody saying 23 Skidoo or something cheesy like that. So you have to really exercise some taste, I guess. And that must be, as a writer, I would think a real challenge, knowing like, that one's a little too on the nose, or it seems a little tacky, even if it's completely what someone in that situation might have said.
Yeah. No, I completely agree that sometimes you can't use those kind of terms because either it will lose its impact to a modern audience. They'll go like, what?
Or take them out of it. Yeah,
it'll take them right out of it. So, okay, are you still with me? Oh, I think I've lost you again. Yep.
Oh, yeah, I think my internet decided to to kick me out again. You can hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yes.
Okay, great. Well, unless there's anything else you wanted to bring up that would be, like you might get a backer that's on the edge to check it out. Is there anything?
Other than we have some great digital deals if you're new to it. And we do have what I call a starter kit, which is volume 1 and also the novel Storm of Secrets, which are a nice, gives you a nice overview of the entire universe and the characters. And otherwise, we have about a week to go. So, and some great add-ons. You check out definitely the metal bookmarks. They're gorgeous. So, come on down before it ends. And if you like, particularly if you like steampunk, supernatural, mystery, detective, then Boston Metaphysical is definitely in your wheelhouse.
Well, great. That was actually the questions I was going to ask to wrap up. So you took the words out of my mouth. So that's perfect. Well, like she said, there's about a week to go. Campaign's doing really well. It's definitely funded. So this one's absolutely going to happen. Great stuff there. The link, as always, if you scroll down on YouTube, is right there in the description. So you can get directly over to the Kickstarter page in the next 7 days and to check that one out. So, and I hope you will. But Madeline, thank you for coming back on the show and sharing the book with us.
Great. Thank you very much, Ben. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, goodbye, everybody. And we'll be back soon to talk about some more great indie comics. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.